Hello. We're going to continue on with introductory material of the Gospels, and this is regarding the genealogies that are in the Gospel of Matthew and Luke. Of all the four Gospels, only Matthew and Luke give accounts of the birth and early life of Jesus. Only these two have genealogies, since genealogies are concerned with origins. Matthew's genealogy is dealing with the perspective of Joseph, while Luke's genealogy is dealing with the perspective of Mary, interestingly enough. In Matthew, Joseph plays an active role, Mary a passive. What we see in Matthew is that an angel appears to Joseph, but there is no record of angels appearing to Mary. The text reveals that what Joseph was thinking and what was going on in his mind, but nothing of what Mary was thinking. On the other hand, in Luke, an angel appears to Mary, but there is no record of angels coming to Joseph. The text reveals that what she was thinking and what was going on in her mind, but nothing about what Joseph was thinking. So Matthew recorded the events surrounding the birth of Jesus from Joseph's viewpoint, and Luke recorded the events surrounding the birth of Jesus from Mary's viewpoint. The question is, why two genealogies? Jesus was Joseph's adoptive son, not his biological son. Why does Matthew record Joseph's line of descent at all? Joseph was, according to Jewish tradition, the heir apparent to David's throne. Technically speaking, Jesus can claim the right of David's throne by virtue of his adoption by Joseph. That is the common view given, but it's not entirely accurate. If Jesus was the biological son of Joseph, he could not be the messianic king, nor could he claim the right to sit upon the throne of David. When Israel was divided, and there was a southern and northern kingdom, the way that kings were appointed, if you lived in the southern kingdom of Judah, you had to be of the direct line of David, King David. But in the northern kingdom, kings were appointed by prophets and divinely appointed, basically. Now, in Matthew's account of Joseph's line, in Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 to 17, Matthew omits some names and includes 4 women. This was not the traditional way of Jewish genealogies. Yet, by omitting some names, Matthew employed a common midrashic method of mnemonics. Example, the Talmudic tractate mentions 10 generations from Adam to Noah, and it includes Adam in the count. Then it mentions 10 generations from Noah to Abraham, but here Noah is not counted. Matthew chooses to put his list together in 3 sets of 14. He omitted several names in his genealogy in order to maintain a symmetry of the 14 generations. Jeconiah could be considered both a pre-exilic or post-exilic figure. The key person in Matthew's genealogy is David, and Matthew probably based his mnemonic on the numerical value of King David's name in Hebrew. It is 14. Dalet, Vav, and Dalet. Dalet is 4, Vav, Vav, I'm not saying that right. Vav is 6, and Dalet is 4. Matthew closely associates the coming of Jesus with King David. The omissions in Matthew's genealogy have caused some to question its validity. However, such omissions were common in Old Testament genealogies. In 2 Chronicles 22, verse 9, for example, Ahaziah is called the son of Jehoshaphat, though he is really a grandson. A.T. Robertson concludes, who is a theologian, says, a direct line of descent is all that it is designed to express. This is all that the term begat means here. It is a real descent, whatever omissions were made for various reasons that would not invalidate the line. Matthew names 4 women: Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba. Normally, women would not be mentioned in Jewish genealogies. Interestingly enough, in the Old Testament, there were some exceptions, and I'll name some of these. Genesis 11, verse 29, Genesis 20, verse 22 to 24, Genesis 25, verse 1, Genesis 35, verse 22 to 26, Genesis 36, verse 10 and verse 22, 1 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 4, and I'll stop right there, but there's a few more. The women he named were not significant in the messianic line. For example, he left out Sarah and Rebecca, who were far more important. All 4 of these women were Gentiles. Tamar and Rahab were Canaanites. Ruth was a Moabitess. Bathsheba was probably a Hittite. Matthew hints at a point which he later amplifies. While the primary purpose of the coming of Jesus was for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the Gentiles would also be included and would benefit greatly. Thank you for that. The second noteworthy fact about these women is that 3 of them were involved in specific sexual sin. Bathsheba, adultery; Tamar, incest; Rahab, prostitution. Ruth is not herself guilty of a sexual sin, but she is the result of one. The Moabites were the product of an incestuous relationship Lot had with his daughters. The point Matthew hinted at here was that Jesus came for the purpose of saving sinners, which is great. Matthew chose to omit some names and include others on purpose, hence allowing his own remarks, his personal remarks in his genealogy. A.T. Robertson says, his record is thus reliable, yet made a part of his own history. So that's very interesting that the gospel writers had a style, things that they wanted to talk about and to disclose. Since the theme of Matthew's gospel is Jesus, the Messiah, the King of the Jews, and since Jewish history begins with Abraham, Matthew went back in time and beginning with Abraham, traced the line forward to the 1st century. From Abraham, he traced the line to King David. From David's many sons, he chose one, Solomon, and traced the line to Jeconiah at the time of the carrying away into Babylon. Joseph, according to Matthew, was a direct descendant of David through Solomon, but also through Jeconiah. And that poses a problem, as we'll discuss. This one fact means that Joseph would not have been an heir apparent to David's throne. The reason is found in Jeremiah chapter 22, verses 24 to 36. In the days of Jeremiah, God pronounced a curse upon King Jeconiah because of the kind of man he was. Jeremiah points out that Jeconiah would be taken into Babylonian captivity in Jeremiah chapter 22, verse 25. He would spend the rest of his life in Babylon and would die there, never to see his homeland again. When the high point of the curse was reached, God called upon the whole earth to be a witness 3 times over that to hear the curse pronounced. The culmination of the curse was in Jeremiah 22, verse 30, that no descendant of Jeconiah would ever have the right to sit upon the throne of David. One had to be a member of the house of David, apart from Jeconiah. So Joseph was a descendant of David through Jeconiah, so he was under the curse of Jeremiah 22 and could not be an heir apparent. But Matthew did not intend to claim Jesus' legal right to the throne as Joseph's adopted son. He had a different purpose in mind. Matthew presented the Jeconiah problem, but then immediately solved it with the account of the virgin conception and birth. Jesus was not the biological son of Joseph. Jesus was born of whom, which is a feminine pronoun. It says in the genealogy, and Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. So that pronoun of whom, or whom perhaps, is a feminine pronoun, and it was because he was born of Mary. Joseph was the husband of Mary. He was Jesus' legal father, but he was not his biological father. The child was hers alone, born of a virgin. Luke entirely avoids the issue by beginning his gospel with the events surrounding the virgin conception and birth, not providing a genealogy until chapter 3. He recorded the genealogy with an entirely different purpose in mind. Luke's account, which is in Luke chapter 3, verses 23 to 38. Luke strictly followed Jewish custom and procedure in his genealogy. He did not mention women and did not skip names. Every single name in Luke's genealogy is preceded by a definite article, except one, the name of Joseph. This allows for how it is rendered into English. Again, it says, being the son, Jesus was being the son as was supposed of Joseph. Not actually the son of Joseph. So Luke's genealogy is actually Mary's. Because of the missing article, we know that this is not really Joseph's line. It is the line of his wife. They use Joseph's name for Mary, though, because that was their tradition. Here, a woman's line is traced by the name of her husband. And in the Old Testament, there were two cases where a woman's line was traced by the name of her husband. That is in Ezra, chapter 2, verse 61, and Nehemiah, chapter 7, verse 63. It is no accident here that the Talmud refers to Mary, Miriam in Hebrew, as, quote, the daughter of Heli, Heli. For the rabbis knew that when the genealogy referred to Joseph as of Heli, it was not actually his genealogy, but instead that was that of his wife. Unlike Matthew, Luke worked backward in time and begins his genealogy with the name of Joseph as a substitute for Mary. Verse 31 then traces Mary's line back to David through David's son, Nathan, not Solomon. Mary did not have the blood of Jeconiah running through her veins. She was a descendant of David, apart from Jeconiah. She was, since Jesus was the real son of Mary, he too was a descendant of David, apart from Jeconiah. Jesus fulfilled the first Old Testament requirement for becoming king over Judah, in that he was a member of the house of David apart from Jeconiah. Why Jesus had the legitimate claim to the throne of David is because of the fact that he was divinely appointed by the Father. And that is the second Old Testament requirement for kingship in Israel. He fulfilled both requirements. Luke ended his genealogy with Adam, thus drawing attention to Jesus' humanity, which was Luke's sub-theme of Jesus, the Son of Man. The title of Messiah in the genealogies, Matthew and Luke. Matthew's titles of the Messiah in Matthew 1:1, he is called, quote, the Son of David and the Son of Abraham, end of quote. Luke chapter 3, verse 38 says he is called, quote, the Son of Adam and the Son of God. The Messiah has many names and titles emphasizing a different aspect of his person and his work. As the Son of David, Jesus is a king. As a son of Abraham, Jesus is a Jew. As the Son of Adam, Jesus is human. As the Son of God, Jesus is God. These four titles portray the messianic person as the Jewish God, man, and king. By calling the Messiah the Son of David, Matthew connects his coming with one of the four eternal covenants God made with Israel, namely the Davidic covenant. By calling him the Son of Abraham, he connected him with the Abrahamic covenant. So now we understand a lot more about how those genealogies work. And I hope you enjoyed this message, and I thank you. And I wish you well. See you next time.